Who's on the move and who is not? We've got your trade deadline fallout straight ahead on NFL Total Access with Scott Hansen. I'm Lindsay Rhodes.
21 players traded since the start of the season. Did you think I meant today? No, only one player was traded today, but still plenty of news surrounding several NFL teams as it was trade deadline day. On this day, it is our understanding that the New York Jets had conversations involving their star safety Jamal Adams. Here is the general manager of the Jets talking a little bit about that.
You know, I did have a chance to talk to Jamal last week. It was a great conversation, productive conversation. The details of that I don't want to get into publicly, but no, it was a very productive conversation.
Is Jamal part of the long-term vision here, Joe? Absolutely.
I mean, again, I just want to reiterate, we were not shopping any of those players that were talked about today. You guys see Jamal every day. I mean, he wears the C patch for a reason. The guy's an absolute warrior. He's the heartbeat of this team and this defense, and he's got the exact mentality. And I've told him from the beginning, from my first day here, I mean, he's a mission statement guy. He's a guy that, when you talk about the traits you're looking for, that's Jamal.
Guys, quarter.
Okay, unequivocally, Douglas saying I was not shopping Jamal Adams. Here's where it gets juicy. Jamal Adams, after that news conference, went on Twitter and said, at the end of the week last week, I sat down with the general manager and Coach Gase and told them I want to be here in New York. I was told yesterday by my agent that the GM then went behind my back and shopped me around to teams, even after I asked him to keep me here. Crazy business. Makes sense of the insanity. We bring in NFL media insider Ian Rappaport right now. So, Adams, whether there were talks or not, he's not happy. There was no move that was made. Help us parse through this, because Douglas went on the radio after that and said, no, it didn't go down that way. What do you know, Ian?
Yeah, here's my understanding of exactly what happened. It became clear to several teams, several winning teams who wanted to acquire really good players, that the Jets would be listening to offers for their good players. Le'Veon Bell was one of those players. Jamal Adams was the main one. From what I understand, the Dallas Cowboys made the first phone call, engaged the Jets on potentially trading for Jamal Adams. Safety has been a priority for the Cowboys for the last year or so. They've been in business trying to get Eric Berry, trying to get Earl Thomas. That did not happen. They saw Jamal Adams as the next. From what I am told, the Cowboys are willing to offer more than a first-round pick for Jamal Adams. What the Jets held out for, and this is according to reporting from me and Jane Slater, the Jets would only trade Adams to the Cowboys for a first-rounder and 2 second-rounders. That is a huge collection of picks. That shows you Jamal Adams has real and legitimate value. It actually enhances his value in the Jets organization, because it's basically what you trade a Pro Bowler for. All of that being said, the Jets did not shop Jamal Adams, but teams were extremely interested in him.
Well, heck of a way for a franchise-type player to go through the middle of the season right here on trading deadline day. Ian, stick around. I've got to talk about a former Pro Bowl player who was traded today and another move that was not made that actually raised some eyebrows. But Lindsay has some reaction on this Jamal Adams story.
Yeah, I think we've got some guys here with some thoughts on all of this. D'Angelo Hall, Mike Robinson, Mark Ross, who spent 21 years in front offices around the league and has probably been involved in some calls like the kind that were made today in New York. What do you think is going on here from a Jamal Adams standpoint?
I mean, I think he has every right to be a little bit pissed off. I mean, let's be real here. You know, he's a guy who went into his head coach and GM's front office and said, hey, I want to be here, and was told he would be there. I probably feel this way because I kind of had the same thing similar happen to me in Atlanta. I went in and told coaches I wanted to be there. They told me they would get a deal done. Found out they were shopping me at the combine. I flew into the combine the next day and held court and said, get me out of there, because I felt like that line of trust had been breached. And so I feel where Jamal Adams is coming from. If he's the kind of player that Joe Douglas talked about him being, then I don't care what you offer when someone calls. You hang that phone up. Nope, he's the linchpin of our defense. Nope, he's the quarterback of our defense. And you hang the phone up. To hear that it would have took a first round and two twos lets me know that he could have been traded.
Yeah, and I understand the logic. I understand the thinking. Players want to know that the team that they play for is all in for them, right? But at the end of the day, What is Joe Douglas supposed to do? Just hang up the phone on people that call? I mean, he does have a responsibility to the organization. And for me, it seems like players don't always get taught business. In business, you got to kind of keep your personal feelings out of it a little bit, right? But I do think this shows how valuable Jamal Adams is to any defense he is a part of. The fact that he had teams going after him, the fact that he had Joe Douglas not wanting to give him up shows tremendous value. So I agree with Ian. I think it shows tremendous value that this young guy has. You can build a defense around him, but at the end of the day, the general manager has to at least pick up the call and listen. Because if you have a team that's willing to just leverage the whole farm and give away everything, then hey, Jamal, love you, bro, but I can't turn this up. At some point, man, you got to get your personal feelings out of it.
I completely agree. I mean, I was surprised to hear Jamal Adams being shopped at all because he is one of the premier players. But as Mike Robb said, as a general manager, you have to look out for the franchise, not just the individual player. And they may have had a conversation where Jamal said to Joe, I want to be here. But did Joe Douglas ever say, you will definitely be here? But did he not make it clear to Jamal, we're going to listen to offers? That's probably did not happen where Joe made it clear to Jamal that we're going to listen, but we definitely won't shop you. So you got that translation between shopping and listening is a fine distinction. But to Jamal, that hurt his feelings. He's going to be angry tomorrow, I'm sure.
Yep.
The Jets have another dilemma to deal with, which as a general manager and a head coach with the Jets, you don't want to have to deal with. But they kind of brought this on their own if they were not clear with Jamal, knowing the type of player and temperament that he has.
Well, Joe Douglas did say on the radio that he was taught that you always take calls for everybody but your franchise quarterback. So he did take one person off the table, which Jamal Adams might not like. He might think that he belongs in that same conversation as your franchise quarterback. You're building around me on defense. There might be some cleanup that's necessary.
Look at the pay structure for quarterbacks. Obviously, they're valued a lot more than everybody else. I'm just saying.
Either way, it sounds like they've got some things to work out. Luckily, though, you know who wasn't mad about his name being thrown into all of this today? Le'Veon Bell.
I need everyone to understand, it takes a process to build a winning program, to build a winning organization. I am happy as hell to be a New York Jet. I'm happy to be here despite all the trade rumors and talks. I am here and I am happy to be here.
Lev Bell likes the up angle on the selfie right there with the lights behind him. I've just noticed that on his social media a lot. All right, back to NFL media insider Ian Rappaport right now. I said at the top of the show there was one player, a former Pro Bowler, who was traded today. Aqib Talib to the Dolphins. But this one, the details, it's more than meets the eye, I guess, right, Ian?
Yeah, it's not really a trade. It's much more of a salary dump for the Rams, who basically shed $4 million of Aqib Talib's salary. This is now going to be paid by the Miami Dolphins, giving them a little more room to try to sign star players like, I don't know, Jalen Ramsey potentially. So here's the deal. It was Aqib Talib and a fifth-round pick. That is what the Miami Dolphins got for paying $4 million of Talib's salary. Going back to the Rams, because you got to trade for something, is a seventh-rounder in 3 years. That is really the trade. Unlikely at this point Aqib Talib ever played for the Dolphins. May not even report. I don't get the sense anyone cares. This is a pure purchase of a draft pick. The Dolphins have shown they're willing to give money for draft picks. They did it in the Ryan Tannehill trade, did it in the Robert Quinn trade, and did it in the Talib trade as well.
Aqib's money is now coming from the state of Florida as opposed to California. Maybe a little bump for him in terms of state income tax. Ian, how about a name that a lot of people were refreshing your Twitter feed today trying to figure out if he was going to move? Trent Williams, the Pro Bowl left tackle from Washington.
That's right. The Washington Redskins spent so long telling anyone who would listen they were not going to trade Trent Williams. Then you got around to the beginning of the trade deadline, couple days, yesterday and today. And all of a sudden, sources said they were open to it. They called around the league, canvassed everyone, trying to get a sense for what the price was for Trent Williams. My understanding is they got offered a second-round pick. They were looking for a first-rounder. The Browns were engaged, but not willing to give up that. So the Redskins simply did not trade him. And here's my understanding of why. They're going to take him into the offseason. They're going to try to trade him again in February and March. The belief is they'll be able to get more than a second-rounder then, So why would the Redskins not wait? That at least is the thinking from Washington.
All right, Ian Rappaport with the latest there, but Trent Williams' story continues on, and for that we go back to Lindsay.
Yes, who is sitting right by our insider for the Washington Redskins.
Don't give me that title.
Turned in some breaking news.
Give me that.
Shortly after the trade deadline, and I mean very shortly after the trade deadline. What did Trent Williams do once the deadline passed?
Yeah, he just texted me. I reported. He told me he would let me know that I would be the first person to know. And so, he gave me that favor, and I appreciate it. And so I in turn spreaded the word.
I've got some questions. Well, like why?
Why did he tell me?
No, why? No, it's not all about you.
That's my homie. Yeah. I raised him up, Lindsay,
Why did he report?
Because the plan was always to report. Once the trade couldn't get worked out, he obviously wanted to be traded. He didn't agree. He had some philosophical differences he didn't agree with, and he wanted to be traded. Once the organization made it clear that they weren't going to trade him, his stance to me was, I'm going to be there and get my accrued season by week 10, I think. So he actually had a little bit more time left, but he was just like, let me just go ahead, report. He felt like it was time. He had proved his point, and he was always saying, like, look, if we can't agree, it's fine. I'll come, I'll show up, I'll do what I got to do, and come January, I still want to be traded.
Yeah, I think they should have got him out of the building. At some point, other players in that locker room are going to ask. There's going to be some conversations going on about why you didn't come back. What's the issues really going on? He's going to talk to potential free agents that come into that locker room. So from an organization standpoint, I think you probably wanted to get him out of that locker room.
Yeah, if I was the Redskins, I would have taken the deal. Seemingly Cleveland had something on the table. Second-round pick would be a tremendous value for a 30-plus-year-old left tackle who's been injured. I would have taken it instead of trying to wait. And here's the thing you have to worry about from the Redskins. You've played hardball with Trent Williams. You've treated him like that. Now he's going to come back. Is he going to have a Jalen Ramsey back injury? Is he going to actually play, or is he just going to be in the building? So that's something Bruce Allen and the Redskins.
But if Bruce Allen was concerned about setting a precedent, about letting a player dictate their moves, then to a degree he called Trent Williams' bluff and won because he did report.
You're right.
But you're saying they might not actually get his services.
Is this over yet? Yeah. Who's going to win? The end game is not here yet. Is Trent going to end up winning?
The player didn't have to go out there and play, right?
Do you have anything to break regarding that?
No breaking news.
Check back with us in a week or so. Scott?
All right, Lindsay, I got the latest headlines here, and we have found a weakness in the New England Patriots. It's their kicker. Patriots cut Mike Nugent today. He missed a couple of kicks on Sunday, so he's out the door. Nugent was in for the injured Stephen Gostkowski. New England is expected to sign Nick Folk to be their next kicker, according to Ian Rappaport. Meanwhile, the Atlanta Falcons are changing kickers. Matt Bryant missed a couple of field goals on Sunday. That means he's missed 5 kicks in the last 7 games. The Falcons cut Bryant today. The new kicker is Younghoe Koo, most recently of the LA Chargers. Speaking of the Chargers, late last night, they fired offensive coordinator Ken Wisenhunt. The Chargers are in the bottom half of the league in terms of points scored. They've been held to 20 or fewer points in 6 of their 8 games this season. In Cincinnati, the Bengals have benched Andy Dalton. He's been the starting quarterback for the past 9 years in Cincinnati, but the team is winless, and Dalton's passer rating is a lackluster 79. Bengals' new starting quarterback, Ryan Finley, a rookie 4th-round draft pick out of NC State.
As for the quarterbacks having better weeks, here to look at your Week 8 FedEx Air and Ground nominees, and none of them were drafted in this decade. Good week for the old guys. Breeze, Stafford, and Aaron Rodgers, all with 3 touchdowns, 300-plus yards, and passer ratings over 116. As for the ground nominees, massive age drop here. Tevin Coleman, David Montgomery, and James Conner all rushed for 100-plus yards and found the end zone. You can vote for your favorite of all of these guys at NFL.com/FedEx. Then tune into NFL Total Access after the game on Thursday, and we'll reveal the winner.